Welcome to What in the Smut podcast,
where the books are horny and so are we. I'm Elle and I write fantasy smut.
and I'm Kay and I write contemporary smut.
And this week in the Smutverse, the Kindle Unlimited drama continues. A reminder, then, that indie authors literally make their living off of KU, and piracy is not an ethical alternative to paying Amazon. Pay for the goddamn books. If you like your books for free, request them at your local library. In big publishing news, Tracy Deonn just published the third book in her best-selling and award-winning Legendborn series, titled Oathbound. We're hearing great things about the book, but not so great things about the release itself. Many readers posted about bookstore tables featuring the new release being downright puny in comparison to the displays of Rebecca Yarros' Empyrean series or Sarah J. Maas's works, which leads us to wonder if stores like Barnes & Noble aren't giving Deonn her due, or if her publisher didn't pay for the privilege of a big splashy display. In any case, if you haven't read the series, now is a great time to start. Elsewhere, Allie Hazelwood continues to prove she's the queen of packaging up old romance tropes for new audiences by announcing an upcoming novel featuring an age gap of 15 years between the 23-year-old female main character and the male lead, who's 38. Truly, her fanfiction roots are on full display with this one. With a title like Problematic Summer Romance, I half expect the trigger warnings to start with, if you don't like, don't read, which is good advice to all readers who are clutching their pearls about any particular romance trope. However, news this week about the release of a novel marketed as an age gap romance has us clutching our puke buckets. ARC readers received a book that featured a female main character who was 3 years old when the 32-year-old male main character first admitted to being sexually attracted to her. Amazon has since removed the book's landing page, and the Goodreads reviews are flooded with ARC readers who DNF'd after discovering the premise. Now, as many smut readers will tell you, we're not here to kink shame, but this is just pedophilia.
I'm going to be thinking about this, I think, for the rest of the day. It's just so disturbing to me, and I don't know how it made it through so many different hoops to get to the point of being published. Even self-published.
It made it all the way to release day. Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm really disturbed by this.
You and me both, Kay. And on that note, let's talk about a fictional daddy whose female main character is an actual full-grown consenting adult. Okay?
So this week we are talking about Pounded by Poseidon by Thea Masen and Holly Wilde. Winning the Mountcastle Cove sand sculpture competition was supposed to be Isla Moore's ticket to sail past her daddy's destructive actions at last year's event. When she loses and her stunning sand sculpture gets struck by lightning, she thinks her hopes have been swept away like the tide. But then she meets a new daddy who wants to care for her and make her his. All she needs to do is trust him and surrender everything to his control. Easier said than done. In this new sentient sand romance, Holly Wilde and Thea Masen give you a daddy dom unlike any you've ever seen before. He'll make you kneel, give you a necklace, spank you pink, and tell you to STFUATTDLAGG. Daddy's coming. Yikes.
Yikes is correct. So we debated where we were going to put this on our smut scale, and it could very easily fall anywhere between 3.5 to level 5 because there are a lot of tentacles. There's not a lot of plot. It's not included in the trigger warnings, but there are some non-con elements here that I didn't particularly like. So speaking of trigger warnings, disappointing father figure, daddy kink, dom/little sub, breeding, tentacle play, impact play, spanking, bondage, degradation, oral, anal, sex in public, sandy sex on the beach.
And we've added in kind of that non-con in there too in some cases.
Yeah, it's worth saying that consent is definitely questionable here.
Yes.
Much like any sentient object romance, the reviews are polarizing.
A 5-star from Amazon says, dead. D-E-D, dead. Daddy is Poseidon. Sandcastles come to life. Tentacles. While it's not to be taken seriously, I still love the names and the way with words in this book. It's very nicely written. About to go read a bunch more of these palate cleansers. I don't know that I would call this a palate cleanser. I feel like I needed one after I read it, but okay.
Correct.
A 4-star. This was my first sentient-ish object romance, which, welcome, girl.
Yeah,
and won't be my last. Perfect, short, and to the point, spicy read. I think Thea and Holly executed this story really well. I loved Isla and Daddy Poseidon with the tentacle appendages. So very hot. Between the ocean puns and innuendos and a particular necklace, this was just a really fun and spicy read. Okay.
Okay. Goodreads has a wide mix as well, so there's a 5-star here. Pounded by Poseidon was so much fun. I usually steer clear of dom sub tropes because so many authors seem to think it's merely a relationship with a lot of abuse, but Holly and Thea knocked this dom sub out of the park. Poseidon is the absolute best daddy dom of the summer. Now I just need a Greek god of my own. I have thoughts on this one, but we'll get into it. The 1 stars, I think.
These are the best ones.
These are the best ones. These align, I think, a little more closely with how I felt following this read. The 1-star review on Goodreads says, a sentient sand sculpture. There are places sand should never be, and I guarantee Isla has sand in all of them. Correct. No notes. Mm-hmm. This person is the smartest of all of them.
Spot on.
Spot on. And the other 1-star review we have here is, to whom it may concern, I would like to scrub my brain and erase the last hour of my life from my memory. I agree. Okay.
Yeah, this was a rough one. It was 62 pages, so it was a quick read. I mean, we'll talk about it. In some ways, the writing was good. Yeah. It was clever.
I was amazed because it started so strong, I think. At least in the prologue, I immediately could tell, I feel, that there were 2 different writers writing this book.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a tough thing, I feel like, to try to do.
Yes.
Like, for one person to maybe write and the other person to edit and add some things in, okay. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, to have it be 2 writers writing it, I think it kind of takes it off the rails a little bit.
Yeah. In my tradition now of not reading anything about the book going in, I take it off so strong in my notes. We start with some very lovely prose. Mm-hmm. And the moment where I realized I was in trouble was when the narrator was talking about the people who walk along the beach. And they said, rarely do they pay attention to sand like me. And I go, oh my God, is our sentient object sand? Because I will not be able to handle that. Get Anakin Skywalker in here because I hate sand. It gets everywhere. And oh my God, does it get everywhere?
Yeah, and it gets everywhere in this book. So yeah, we're getting essentially Poseidon's point of view, except it's his pre-sentient reveal as sand.
Yes.
And this is the prologue. So, I mean, he sees her coming down the beach and the writing is good.
It's so elegant. I was so impressed when we started because the writing is elegant. It's descriptive. I was like, if I weren't hyper aware that I'm watching from the perspective of sand, I would think we were at the start of like a full ass novel. Like this line, she poses the question to the ocean as though the waves can be trusted with her secrets. But I know the tide is a slippery motherfucker who can't keep from spilling other people's shit everywhere.
I have that same quote in my notes, too.
I loved it. And then I said, and it's gone.
So we don't get a name for her yet. Mm-hmm. We see her coming down the beach. And she's saying to the ocean, you just couldn't keep it in your pants, could you? Mm-hmm. So it primes us to think that this is like a cheating start. Yes. We had a good thing going, daddy. And he says, she's been hurt by her daddy dom. Now...
That specific phrase is such a jump scare after this wildly beautiful prose, such evocative descriptions of the waves and the beach and the ocean. And then... her daddy dom. Yeah. Why does sand know this phrase? No.
So like as much as I was into the like dom sub plotline in Deep End,
yes,
the daddy kink doesn't do it for me. I'm pro good girl. Give me a good girl, but not daddy. I don't like the daddy king.
Yeah, and I was curious because, like, as we all know now, I am not into good girl at all, and so I was curious where you were going to land with daddy because
I didn't like it.
Basically, this prologue is so all over the place. I was like, how is the sandcastle competition related?
Yeah.
Why does the mention of it give me whiplash? Like, this literal sand is out here being like, I'll be the daddy she needs.
And we find out that her name, our female main character, her name is Isla, and she lost a sandcastle competition, and that is why she is so upset, kind of. Although they didn't actually lose the competition.
No,
they won the competition, but then we find out that her father, not her daddy dom, her father, who she built this sandcastle with, got wasted and peed on the runner-up's sandcastle and destroyed it that night. Somebody caught him, so then they got disqualified. So this is why she's upset, because she got disqualified from a sandcastle competition because of her father.
Oh, so much. So chapter 1, we start at the sandcastle competition. We find out later it was, in fact, a year after the prologue.
Yeah.
We've got a Billy who appears to be a judge. He wants to make Isla's sleepy beach town into a tourist destination.
In a Hallmark movie, he would be the male main character that, like, comes in to try to build up this big town, and they would fall in love.
Yes. I have. This is so Hallmark it hurts, because she says she got a plot close to the judge's stand or whatever because she's a veteran of the sandcastle community. And I said, this phrase did in fact kill me. I have yet to recover. Then we get kind of that backstory of she's feeling slightly grateful that she was even allowed to compete because of what happened last year. And this is when I start screaming, because what do you mean this grown-ass woman calls her father daddy?
Yes, I have a big ongoing problem with adults that use daddy or mommy to refer to their parent. I don't like it, and I've noticed it happen a lot more. And we might have some listeners that that's the case. Maybe it's a cultural thing, maybe. But for me, I was not surrounded by that growing up. And as an adult, when I see another adult call their parent mommy or daddy, I don't love it.
No. And it was written deliberately to be misleading. It's just so that we could have the most awkward scene after that, where she has to explain to her new daddy dom that she didn't have a daddy dom previously. So she made a sand sculpture of Poseidon. And I said, oh my God, I can see exactly where the fuck this is going. She didn't place. So we get this whole scene of them announcing the winner. We get this hint that Billy is maybe an ex. It's very weird. The way that Billy is framed, and then the references to her father, it's hard to tell who the bad guy of the story is. But Billy apparently is going to be our bad guy because he'll come back later in the most awkward way possible. So she doesn't place in the sandcastle competition. It is what it boils down to. And then as she's staring out at the sculptures, she looks at her own sculpture, trying to assess it for flaws, basically.
Like, why didn't I win? She did say that there were a record number of sculptures this year. There were 25. But as somebody that had won in the past, she was surprised to not even have placed.
Yes.
What is wrong with this beautiful piece of artwork that I did by myself?
I have in my notes. She gets turned on by her own sculpture, which to me is testament to the fact that she absolutely should have placed. Like,
yeah, she's like scanning down his abs, and she's like, "Yeah, I did a good job with those.
I did a good job."
So Billy, our bad guy, says to her, I'm sure you know there's no hard feelings, Isla, but just to be certain that nothing goes wrong this year, it's best if you aren't seen over by the sculptures. I'd hate for folks to get the wrong impression. Now, again, it was her father that did this last year.
Yeah.
It was not her that ruined the sculpture.
She wasn't even there.
So he's basically saying you're guilty by association. Stay away from the sculptures. But then a storm starts to roll in. Yeah. Which, I'm sorry, but how are these sand sculptures going to make it through a storm?
They're not.
So, like, why does he care?
Great question. Unclear. She used her necklace to make Poseidon's crown in the sand sculpture. So she wants to get her necklace back before the storm rolls in.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was unclear kind of what the layout of the beach was, because it sounded like as the storm was rolling in, Billy was herding people
into his bar.
Inside. Okay, into his bar. Okay, which is, I guess, on the beach, which is fine. And then we see the wind pick up, and it picks up an umbrella and impales First Place's sculpture. And Isla is looking around like, please tell me someone else saw that and can confirm that I did not do something, because I'm guilty by association with my dad and his shitty behavior. And Billy kind of like looks at her with like uncaring eyes and
like kind of gives her a dirty look, like, how dare you not let that impale you instead of that?
The vibes seem to be pointing that direction, to be quite honest. Anyway, we start chapter 2 by watching her sculpture get struck by lightning. Don't think too hard about the physics of this, because she says her necklace was the perfect conduit.
So I guess like the metal from the necklace attracted the lightning, and then it turned the sand into this black glass where the lightning hit. And then it starts to rain.
Yes.
Bye-bye all of the sand sculptures. Unless, like, I just have a lot of questions about this. Are they mixing the sand with glue? I think we need to do a deep dive on, like, sandcastle competitions and how those work.
Yeah,
because
I think you're right.
I don't.
This is one where I will confess my ignorance. I apologize for not doing my research on the sandcastle building community.
I did research other things. Don't worry. We'll get to it.
She still runs to grab her necklace off the top of the sculpture.
Off of the sand that turned to glass. So I'm sorry, but that necklace is either fused to this now glass crown or melted, or it's going to be very hot. Like,
we're not supposed to think too hard about this, but none of this makes any sense. Also, I was unclear. It sounded like when the sculpture got hit by lightning that the whole thing turned to glass.
But then there's references to sand again.
Sand.
I think his crown turned to glass, because at one point he like takes the crown off and puts it on her.
Oh, okay.
So that might be why they chose to make that be something.
Sure. Why not?
I mean, at least there's a little bit more going back to it, more so than there was last week.
True.
So as she's approaching her sculpture, she says, I'm caught off guard by the subtle differences I see. The curve of his smile that seemed sardonic when I first gave it to him now seems predatory and dark.
Yeah.
Which... I have thoughts, but...
What are your thoughts? Tell me more.
Why does he think that a dark smile is going to be what brings her into him in terms of starting this romance? I don't know.
Yeah.
So she's confused. She goes to reach for the necklace and she starts to fall.
Mm-hmm.
She gets caught by the ankle and lifted into the air face to face with Poseidon.
Upside down. First and foremost. And I wouldn't call it face-to-face, given the fact that she's dangling upside down and her eye level is where the V in his abs is pointing into his testicles.
All right, fair. So she doesn't have to worry about his smile anyway.
No, she's got bigger problems.
I skipped over that.
Oh my gosh.
So breaking away from the sand below, his giant tentacles unfurl themselves.
I cannot.
And then my notes just say icky sticky. But like sandy. So, I mean, they're made of sand. So breaking away from the sand below, but also seemingly still sandy.
I think he does refer to them as sandticles later.
Oh, there's a lot of ways that he refers to things.
We'll get into it. There are so many puns.
So I'll read the list after, but I do have a whole list of words that she used in reference to Isla's vagina.
I can't wait.
There are a lot, and it was very, very creative.
I agree. It was very
There were
creative.
some of the usuals in there.
So, feeling like a fish out of water, I stutter over my words and drop my eyes. Faced with the detail I put into carving his rock-hard core, I'm more than a little distracted from the impossibility of what's happening right now. The fact that my line of sight is perfectly aligned with that space where his V-shaped abs lead to his girthy tentacles doesn't help.
I mean, maybe this is on me, but did Poseidon have tentacles? Like, was Poseidon half man god, half octopus? I, for some reason, thought he might have legs and maybe the tentacles would be like a tutu, but no. Like, he's got arms. He's got arms.
I'm so sorry. I need to pause on that. A tutu tentacles. Oh my god.
But I guess it's similar to like Ursula, how she's like, so I mean, I guess I can get back on board with it. He does have arms. He's got a male chest and core, as we see, but okay, fine.
Yeah. Anyway, he starts off very domineering.
Mm-hmm.
He asks if she was trying to take her crown, and she like corrects him and was like, it's a necklace, and is still dangling upside down. And he's like, I suppose I owe you my thanks. After all, it was your talisman that allowed me to inhabit this form.
Yes.
Which at this point, I wasn't sure if we were still just like, this is just random sand on the beach,
or that one piece of sentient sand made it, like she managed to get that one grain of sand that now the lightning turned into this whole being.
Yeah.
Also, Zeus was the god of lightning, so maybe Zeus like helped him out because it was lightning that created him.
Maybe. We don't really get any reference to any of the other, like there's no indication that they
are pals.
Yeah. Yes. Precisely.
Then he says, do you want me to give you a necklace of your own, Isla? That is bold for like the first, come on.
I agree. Yeah, we're going to get a lot of references to this necklace. This was another one of those transitions that felt like such a fucking jump
whiplash,
scare.
Yeah.
Yeah, whiplash. Because basically he sets her upright. She's obviously swaying. She's obviously attracted to him. And his line I thought was pretty good, which is, I'm the king of all things water, and you're hiding an ocean between those thighs.
That was a pretty good one.
Which is a pretty good line as far as sexy dialogue goes.
Yeah.
And then we jump to.
And then she thinks, there's no doubt in my mind that I want the king of the sea to be the king of my pee. And I said, nope, don't like that.
I hate it. Why was the last line so good and this one is so
bad?
Cringe.
Yeah, it's so bad.
bad.
So then we move on to chapter 3, which is Poseidon's point of view.
Yes.
So it kind of goes back to how he had watched her during the awards. He saw how upset she had gotten when she didn't place, and then the lightning gave him the power in his grains of sand. And he says, finally, I can be the daddy my lonely little island needs. They played off her name a lot, Isla.
Yep.
So I just have, he is sand. And he's,
in case you
sand.
forgot, he is sand.
Sand. He says, I want to explore every inch of her, mark her silky skin with my abrasive touch. So, like, again, ow.
Yeah.
I mean, sand is good for exfoliating, I guess, but, like, not if you're talking sandpaper. So, when she gets over to him, he asks her if she knows how octopi mate. This is where I did my research.
Please tell me, because I was like, I cannot look this up. I don't think I'll be able to finish this book if I know any more.
So he says, you gave me these tentacles. Do you know what they can do? 2 of his sand tentacles untie her bikini top. They're very dexterous. Now, she's topless at the beach in the middle of a storm. He asks her if her nipples are tender, and she responds with, are your tentacles tender? So she's like...
She's definitely a brat.
Yeah, for sure. I said that's a weird interaction. So he pulls her hair. I can get on board with that. Pulls her closer into him with another tentacle, and then she asks him, so how do octopi mate? And he says, this tentacle is different from the others. You can think of it as a very long, very thick, very dexterous cock. And I said, true. It is called a hectocaudalus. That is how octopi mate. They
I'm gonna
use this to, like, deposit sperm into the female octopus for her to use later. Like, she can store, she's like got her own personal sperm bank for her to make babies whenever she wants.
Hang on to this until I need it.
Yeah, so some thought or research, or maybe one of these authors really had like a love of octopus growing up that they like found out that that's how they mate, or she just looked into it like I did. So I learned something. Then he uses that. He calls it tentacle cock.
He uses several different words over the course of this story.
This is a thesaurus of ocean-themed genitalia.
Yes.
So he traces the edge of her ear. I mean, I don't know that I'd want a penis on my ear, but okay. Wraps it around her neck and lifts her chin and says, "With this, I'll possess you. I'll reach so deep inside you, I'll implant myself in your soul and never leave." I said, if someone I had just met said this to me, I would be so dried up and running away.
Correct.
Like, that is not going to turn me on.
Serial killer behavior.
Thank you.
Do not say this to a woman.
I said, hell, if Harry Styles said this to me, it wouldn't even be a turn on.
That's our bar.
With his British accent. And that man could pretty much recite the alphabet and turn me on. So, like... So this line was just so offensive to me that I was like, no, I'm out.
Yeah. In my notes, I don't know if I like this. Of course, he has a tentacle cock, and she's excited to see how he uses it. I don't like that he immediately goes to, I'm going to impregnate you. But she seems very into it, so...
Again, with these ladies wanting to get knocked up by someone they met 10 minutes ago. I don't understand it. But
I don't either. I don't know. The last one, Cammie's obsession with it was really kind of sad. But this one is just not explained at all. Like, it's not like, oh, I want someone to love when I'm alone again. Yeah. I guess it makes sense with her character. This is, you know what? My bad, because now we get a different view of it, and frankly,
Cammie's makes a little more sense now.
Yeah. So we kind of seesaw back and forth with whether Isla is on board.
Yeah.
He says, I don't even know if I should quote it. It's just, it makes me so uncomfortable. I'm going to reach all the way into your womb and fill you with my seed until your belly is round with my child. I'll touch you in ways you can't even imagine, stroke places no one has ever been. And she says, do it. Okay.
Yeah. Do it, you won't.
Do it. Do it, you won't. And he says, first, I believe I owe you a necklace.
Ugh. Ugh.
And so then we go back. Oh, God. Okay. So we go back into Isla's perspective. We're on the beach. It's raining. It's storming. Everyone else that was at the sandcastle competition, which, by the way, was originally a small town, locals only competition, and has now evolved into a full-on festival. So there are a shitload of people just hanging out in that bar who could look out the window at any moment, for the record. And she is topless. He uses his tentacles to wrap every limb of my body, carving me into the position he wants until I find myself on my knees before him in nothing but my jean shorts. And then he goes, do you want me to pillage your cove?
Ding, ding, ding. Number 1 for words for vagina. Pillage your cove.
Perfect. Do you want me to pillage your cove and bury my treasure in your depths, little island? This is where I felt like we were getting a somewhat reasonable representation of a submissive, because her inner thought process is very clearly, I want this.
Yeah.
Right now. A tiny whimper leaves my mouth as I nod my head, wanting anything and everything he'll give me. And then he says, it's important you know what you're getting into, Isla. I'm not like the human men you've been with before. And then I was like, why is he shouting now? Because he rises up, towering over me, voice growing loud enough to shake the night.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
I am as ancient as the stars and as demanding as the desert. I will not go easy on you. I'm not soft or lukewarm. I'm grit and gravel, and I will polish you until you shine. Damn. Like, I don't want any part of this, but that is evocative, if nothing else.
That's true. Then he says, if we do this, I expect your complete surrender. Now, this is kind of different from the dynamic that we got in Deep End, where like...
Yes, this is not a negotiation.
Yeah, where Lucas was like, I want your enthusiastic yes, versus I don't want to try to convince you. So then he says, do you want to be with me or not, Isla? He says, I already told you how this is going to go. Yeah. Like, and then she goes, but, and he says, shut the fuck up and take this dick like a good girl. I said, I'm out.
Yeah. We started with, use your words, Isla. Mm-hmm. And then she says, yes, I want this. And then he tries to stick his tentacle cock in her mouth. And she is naturally a little bit hesitant.
Yeah.
Because no one wants sand in their mouth.
Also, he grabs her tongue between his fingers. Like, I'm sorry, but like, one, I don't really want somebody's fingers in my mouth. I mean, again, some people are fine with that.
Yes. When he tells her to shut up and take it like a good girl, which miss me with that shit is all I have to say personally.
I mean, I want the good girl praise, not the tell me to be a good girl.
Yes.
I want to do it on my own, okay?
It says, I shudder at the demand, the sheer presence of him, but sigh in relief. It's like his harsh words cut right past my resistance, the part of my brain that was still overthinking this desire I feel for my castle creation. And I think that is an echo of some of the explanation we got from Scarlet in Deep End of quieting that part of your brain that just refuses to stop going.
Yeah.
But then we like immediately ruin it in the next chapter.
So she does say that rather than the foul taste of sand, he tastes faintly of saltwater taffy.
I said that's way better than tasting like sand.
But see, I said it does not make me like it more. I don't like saltwater taffy. Like, grew up in New England. I've had plenty of opportunities to have saltwater taffy. Never a fan. Okay. I don't like it. So, I mean, that didn't really get me any more on board for this, but to each their own, I guess. I also said that the dominating blowjob doesn't work for me. I don't really like that. He then starts to move a tentacle between her legs, and she says, I've been fingered before, but never have been tentacled. And I said that the description of the combination of the dexterity of the tentacle with the combination of the suckers, now that I can get on board with.
Right. This is why I think tentacle porn has had such staying power.
So then he gives her pearl necklace.
Oh my fucking God.
And I said, I mean, pearls are made from grains of sand. So really, this is literary genius.
I agree. I think taking the concept of a pearl necklace, which is a very sexual term already, and making it be actual pearls, although it is still like strung together with something sticky.
It was sticky. And then now the pearls are a collar. So he says, you're mine now, Isla, marked by my seed. This is never coming off. So, I mean, she like kind of agreed to the sub thing, but I don't think she necessarily agreed to be collared. And that's a whole different realm of the whole BDSM kind of situation that they're entering into. So that's something.
Certainly it's something. So we get Poseidon's point of view after he gives her the pearl necklace. And we now come to understand that he's not just sand. Like, this is actually Poseidon because he has a past. He says, in the past, countless others have bent to my will, yielding to my callous ways. Yet never before have I felt such a profound desire to claim someone as my own, to possess them wholly. And I was like, why? You don't even know this girl.
Other than the fact that she was upset on the
beach,
and you mistake that for her being submissive.
Yes.
He says, she is mine, my submissive, and I am her daddy. And then he tells her about the first time that he saw her. And he says, you talked about your last daddy who did you so wrong. She corrects him and tells him, like, no, that was my father.
Yeah.
So also, he kind of entered her into this contract with him without her really even knowing anything about what was happening.
Yeah. Because she's never had a, quote, daddy before.
Like, she's not familiar with what just happened. She does ask him to explain what it means to wear his collar. And he says, oh, my pretty little island, that was only a drop in the ocean. I don't know.
We're not on board anymore.
He started to lose me in this chapter. I mean, he could have reeled me in after the last one, but he's really starting to lose me in chapter 5.
Reeled you in like a fish.
Again, unintentional.
Oh my God. Yeah. So she says, I've never had a daddy like that. What would that mean to be collared to you? And he's like, it means that you are mine. Your heart, your body, all of you belong to me. And we do walk it back a little bit here. He says, if you ever feel uncomfortable or unsure, I want you to tell me. I will always prioritize your feelings and well-being. But in return, you follow my lead and you give yourself to me fully, completely, and willingly.
Which, like, is at odds with what he just told her to shut the fuck up and take it like
a good girl. Yes. And we then get her perspective, and now we're getting like a not consent.
Yeah, she's questioning it.
Yeah, and she said, I'd come to the beach to pour out my heart to the only thing I thought would understand, the raging tides. How was I supposed to know the very grains of sand beneath my feet were listening, watching, and waiting for the moment to come alive and do what exactly? The beach has always been my sanctuary, a place where the waves can wash away my worries and the salty breeze can cleanse my soul. But now it feels like the very elements I trusted have turned against me. The water that once soothed me now churns with an intensity that mirrors my inner turmoil, and the sand that cushioned my steps now shifts unpredictably in front of me. Great writing.
Absolutely.
But also, like, he said he wants to care for me, but in the same breath, he forced me onto my knees and claimed my mouth.
Yeah.
Like, this does not say consent.
Right. And it's at odds with what he's saying, especially since she didn't know what it was going into it.
No.
She says, I'll easily let him take my body. Hell,
which we flip-flopped again.
Yeah. Hell, he's so hot, I'd let him do just about anything to me, especially if it results in an orgasm. Yes. But trust, my submission and faith in him, that's a different story. I don't know if I have that to give.
Which is a complete departure from how Hazelwood portrayed this kind of relationship,
trust,
which was all about
trust. To be the number one. And,
yeah.
And I mean, you don't blindly go into trusting someone.
No.
That needs to be built. You can't just say, you trust me, and they're like, okay. Even in this kind of situation, it needs to be built on action.
And then she says, okay, let's take this one step at a time. And then is like, perhaps I should have realized that one step at a time could mean something different to a man who can cross the beach with just a few flicks of his tentacles.
He doesn't use his hands for much.
No.
It's all tentacles. He does have arms and hands, but he doesn't use them. It says his tentacles take off her jean shorts. She's just bikini bottoms on. And again, good writing. Despite the material being made to get wet, I feel like I've pushed the limits of the fabric with my dripping desires. Like, yeah. Okay. So now we're turned on again?
Yeah, right. Oh, the whiplash.
Which, I mean, I guess if it's something that you're going into and you're unsure of, I can see that back and forth with like, yeah I'm turned on by this hot man, but also I'm not sure about it. But then to go into that big leap.
Yes.
Is a stretch.
I wouldn't have minded all the flip-flopping if we hadn't started with, you agree to this contract that you don't understand. Yes. Like, if you put on the pearl necklace later, I feel like I would have been a little more on board.
Right, when she, like, knew what was going on.
When she knew what a daddy was.
When she knew that he thought she'd been in a relationship like this before.
Yes.
He says, don't fight it. She thinks,
Oof.
try as I might, my muscles refuse to relax. I don't like that at all. I mean, your body can tell you things that your mind is not ready for you to hear. And that to me was like, if your muscles are not relaxing, you are not like, just as if you can't talk about it, you shouldn't do it. Like, if your body's not letting him in, there's something mentally that you need to like work on first.
Totally.
And think about whether or not that is what you actually want.
Totally. Exactly. I feel like we gave Hazelwood a lot of praise for her portrayals. This is in such contradiction to how Scarlett reacted to specific scenarios like this, where unlike Isla, where she's like, my body's just refusing to comply, Scarlett was like, it's the way I'm wired that with him performing these actions and using this tone, I am putty in his hands kind of vibes. Like, it just like immediately is on board, turned on, body's ready. Like, and so for it to be such a fight here, and like he says, like, surrender, or do you want me to make you submit? To overpower that pretty little brain so you can't overthink this. Is that what you need?
And I mean, this could fall under the umbrella that we just, we got kind of the more... The Sheehan version. Yeah, the more palatable newbie kind of version with Deep End. And this could be some that we just are not aware of. But
the next evolution of that, it's very possible.
Is just not doing it for me. So, yeah. He wraps her up in his tentacles and moves her over to his throne.
Still in full view of the bar.
Yeah. So, she thinks I'm not usually one for sex in public, but being on display out in the open air is incredibly erotic. And I said, we're still not worried about all the sand.
No.
You're going to go sit on his throne now, his sand throne. Sand's going to be getting in places real quick.
Yeah, even if we ignore the fact that he is made of sand.
Yes.
If we're going to, shut off our pretty little brains and let that happen. She's still sitting on the beach.
Yes. He gives her oral. He goes down on her. And she says, my castle creation has me squirting like a cuttlefish and feeling like a champion as I come. I said, I mean, the ocean references are really top notch.
They really, really are.
So his cocticle
why do we have
swirls inside me. And then she says, he may be made of sand, but he's an ocean, wild and tranquil all at once, and I'm adrift in his current. Again, the writing in some cases is
beautiful.
The metaphors are wonderful, and I just am here for some of it. The actual erotica, if you will, is really kind of what I'm not here for in this particular novel.
Which is weird, right? Like,
right.
There are moments where it works, and there are descriptions that, like I said, make me understand why tentacle porn has such staying power because of a lot of that versatility and dexterity and all of that. But I'm mostly just here for the puns and the metaphors. Like, there's some good shit here, and none of it is turning me on, unfortunately.
So then we go back to Poseidon, his point of view.
They say, heavy is the head that wears the crown, but nothing is heavier than the weight of need building inside my cock as I watch my woman bounce on me.
He also says galloping on my dick like she's riding a seahorse.
I stopped there because I was like, we don't need to ruin it.
Nope, don't worry, I'll bring it back.
And I appreciate that. Bring us back down to earth.
So then he rubs her belly, and I said immediately no. No, immediately no. If somebody rubs my belly, it's going to take me out of the moment, back into my head. All of those insecurities come back.
Yes.
So he's rubbing her belly.
I hate it.
And says, as I caress the place where I will plant my pearl. And I said, nope.
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 Not here for it. The longer we do this, the more I learn about myself.
Which is what we're here for.
And boy, oh boy, do I not like a breeding kink.
Oh yeah, me neither. For sure. Absolutely not. And I feel like I
hate it so
kind of
much.
knew that before,
Yeah.
but it is crystal clear after the past couple of novels that we've read.
Yes.
So then he flips her over and spanks her. Okay. With my cocticle still inside her cunt. Ding, ding, ding. Another word used, which this one was a normal one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I breach her dark port with one finger. I don't understand where all of these first time interactions immediately go to anal.
I feel like with tentacle porn,
It does. Because
yes.
there's so many things that need
There's
to go
so many
places.
appendages that I'm not here to defend it, but don't ask me why I know that it's common in tentacle porn, but you gotta fill every hole.
So then I have in all caps, he reaches for his trident.
Oh my god. I know. I forgot about it.
And I mean, contrary to what the cover of this novel is,
yes.
It says he reaches for his trident and the center prong is taller than the other two by a few inches and slightly rounded at the tip.
Mm-hmm.
Again, slightly rounded.
I'm going to need it to be fully rounded.
Fully rounded, not made of sand. Maybe if that turns
rubber
to glass. I mean, I guess sand glass is supposed to be real, like, durable, whatever. But it, like, she pushes back onto the trident, so then the sharper points are, like, digging into her ass cheeks. I just... this was not one of those things where I had to ask myself what the logistics of it were. I could picture the logistics, and I did not like it.
Right. Yeah. And this was like, what's even the point of having all of those tentacles if you're going to use your trident instead?
Maybe to, like, prep her, because it's smaller than the tentacles are.
Is it? Like, I don't know.
So then he switches out the trident for a tentacle.
Right, yeah.
And says, I've never known a person who enjoys sand in their cracks the way my woman does.
I know. The only nod we get to being self-aware about how absurd this is.
Chapter 8, we're back to Isla's point of view. They're snuggling in post-coital bliss. He says mine. She says yours. Then he puts the crown on her head. So this is where we're, like, going back to the crown turned into glass, whatever.
Yeah.
She says, for the first time in a long time, this cove feels like home again. I don't know what life will be like with a monster made of sand by my side, but I know I'm his and he's mine, so we'll figure it out. So this is, again, going back to how, like, when Billy moved into town, he took that small town vibe and tried to make it, like, a more touristy area.
Yeah.
And it stopped feeling like home to her. So I don't know why. Maybe it's just the endorphins running through her body that are like, oh yeah, this is home again.
So they're cuddling in post-coital bliss. She is naked.
Yep.
Being held by a monster
made of sand.
When the sound of another voice pops the bubble of bliss I've been floating in, and Billy comes rushing out of his bar, I guess, and he's shouting, "What the hell, Isla? I thought I told you not to come near this beach." And she twists around to look at the man who's made me feel small ever since he came to Mountcastle Cove, Billy fucking Johnson. What is it with your family and debasing this town's sculptures? And, like, one, this is her sculpture, so fuck you. Two,
a storm just came through.
A storm just came through and destroyed most of them, so fuck you. And three, clearly he thinks, I've been rolling around in the sand just to tarnish his precious summer fare. Though he's half right, there's nothing impure about what I'm doing on this beach. Yes, there is.
Everything. And
everything that you just did was impure. I'm not saying it was wrong or bad, because I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum or kink shame, but it was very impure and also could get you arrested for public indecency.
Just depending on where you are, yeah. So then Poseidon yells at him, like... So she's, I guess, wrapped up in his tentacles.
Yeah, something like that.
He kind of puts her, like, behind him. Poseidon yells at Billy and says, you will treat Isla with respect from now on, or I will bury you in the deepest ocean where no one will ever find you. So
killer
we
behavior.
just had to add in that touch her and die vibes kind of deal.
Of
and
course.
he runs away. She thinks he pissed himself. I mean, a Sandman, it almost makes me think of like in Frozen when she's got the big snowman. Go home!
Oh my God, you're right.
So she says thank you for getting rid of Billy. And he says, I'll fill you up with gratitude and my seed because you're mine now.
Nope.
You're welcome would work. Or like, I've always got you. But no. Nope.
I'm so okay.
Are we though? Are we okay?
I have never been less okay. So I want like a full story of just like the epilogue. So basically it's like, this is many years later and they're on the beach. They now have 4 children.
Yep.
Atlantic and Pacific, the twins.
Yep.
And Atlas and Serena.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all making sandcastles on the beach. And she says that she hasn't entered a competition since meeting Poseidon. We've talked about entering together as a family and reclaiming the championship title, but her kids are making sandcastles and she says they're shaping a massive airplane just for fun. It's looking good, but the front of the plane looks a little too much like the head of a cock. And so she steps forward to fix it. And Poseidon is like, let them figure it out for themselves. And it doesn't really fit because then she says, I don't want to be absent like her father, essentially.
Yeah.
And none of that makes sense because they're literally all together on the beach. She's watching her kids make a sandcastle. And the original inclination, I assumed, was to not make a phallic object on the beach. But we get this like very heartwarming kind of scene of like, you're not absent, you are right here if they ask for you. But they're getting older and pretty soon they're going to need to float into the sea and go off to find their own islands and adventures. Does he go to parent teacher conferences?
Is nobody paying attention to the tentacles? Like, are we just accepting that there's this big tentacled man?
There is a
town?
family with 4 children. They hang out and make sandcastles on the beach all the time. They've talked about
are tentacles recessive genes? Like, do the kids have legs, or do they have tentacles as well? Or is there a mix? Like, did some of the kids get that gene and other ones not so much? Like, there's a lot of questions that we want answered.
I need to know. Like, I want to see like his very first parent-teacher conference where they're just like, oh, hello, Poseidon. Like,
does he put a shirt on to go into the
Does he wear a skirt over his tentacle?
But also, I said, like, has it just been normalized and everyone in the small town is totally okay with a half-man, half-octopus as their neighbor? Like,
yeah. Yep. So
she tells him that she wants another kid.
Oh my God, I can't.
And he sweeps her up into his arms, seemingly the only time he's used his arms in this entire book, and tries to bring her to the public bathroom. And she's like, no, like, pump the brakes, dude. We're not going to leave our 4 children on the beach so we go fuck in the bathroom.
Literally insane.
And that's really where this ends. I agree. I feel like there could have been a lot more information given to us about the children. So you're saying that you want a sequel?
No. I am so emphatically not saying that I want a sequel. I want bonus content.
More information. Deleted scenes, if you will.
I want the Disney movie version of this family.
Oh, Lord.
It'd be like a Disney Channel original. It'd be like, my dad, Poseidon. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to choose between the ocean and land. Like, you're watching the Disney Channel.
Oh my God. It's outrageous, but like, I'd watch it. That's hilarious. So before we give this a rating, I would like to run through my list of words used for vagina.
Please. Oh, let me prepare myself. Okay. All right.
So
I'm ready.
I may have missed some. This still is quite an extensive list. We did discuss pillage your cove, bury my treasure in your depths. We had one of the old favorites, aching core, a couple times.
Yep.
Folds, slit,
Mm-hmm.
sea cave.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Pussy, again, a couple times. Womb,
Mm.
hot springs. We, again, were like 5 for 5 with the word cunt in all these books.
How did we manage that?
I think we just maybe dissociate when we see it in the past and just kind of skip over it. Like, no, that word doesn't exist to me, but we have to acknowledge that word is here, and I think it's here to stay. And we did discuss that in some cases it is better
preferable.
than the alternative. We also have mound,
Mm-hmm.
abyss, which I didn't like that.
No.
Juicy clam.
Yes. I had a mental note of that one.
And waters.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I gave this a 2-star rating because some of the writing was just really well done.
Yep.
The plot, I didn't love it. If we could really find it, I might have liked it better. But overall, I think it's better than a 1-star in my opinion because of some of the writing. But again, you can definitely tell it was written by 2 different people. I'd like to know which one of those 2 people was doing that writing and then maybe read another one of their novels.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was Thea Masen or Holly Wilde.
We'll have to investigate. I think 2 stars is probably fair. I think there were passages I very much enjoyed.
Uh-huh.
I really, really loved the prologue. I thought it was so evocative and so exciting and interesting, which is the exact opposite of Naked Leprechaun. And some of the erotic language worked.
Yeah.
Most of it did not.
Did not.
Most of it did not. I think I'm also giving it a little bit extra because of just the idea of Dad Poseidon taking his kids to school at the end of this story just really gives me a weird amount of delight. For what the story
could be.
Yeah. It's got so much potential. That's why I've given it an extra star.
You could write that story about Poseidon coming in for those parent-teacher conferences, and I can't wait to read it.
Honestly, I feel so inspired. So Kay, help me picture Poseidon taking his kids to school. What are your fan casts?
Okay, so for Isla, I went with Brie Larson.
Ooh.
And I, quite honestly, and this is going to sound terrible, couldn't come up with anybody for her. She was the last person that I cast in this one. And I Googled nondescript female actresses.
What a condemnation of Brie Larson.
I know. I mean, she's been in like superhero stuff.
Yeah.
She, I think, won an Oscar for superhero stuff. So she's a great actress. I didn't picture anybody in my head. And then when I saw her, I was like, yeah, she could be an Isla.
Yeah, I think the lesson there is that it could have been anyone because she didn't really have much personality.
And there was no descriptors either about like, so I guess it was another one of those, like you can put yourself in that role if that's what you're into. I most certainly did not put myself in that role for this one. Poseidon. I almost went with Jason Momoa, again, second time in as many episodes talking about him as a potential cast.
Yeah.
But he was already Aquaman.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell he would play the role well.
Yeah.
However, I decided to instead go with John Cena. I love him. I love John Cena. I think that he is hilarious. I think that he is real big and beefy and like, whew. So
I could absolutely
Poseidon,
see John Cena with all of his tentacles, like,
yeah, for sure. Like, honestly, I could see John Cena rolling up with tentacles to parent-teacher conferences.
Yes!
Like, he would make that epilogue
really
pretty fantastic.
Yep.
And then for Billy Johnson, I brought a Billy into this with Billy Zane.
Incredible.
And for those that maybe some of our younger listeners are Gen Zers, Billy Zane is the bad guy fiance in Titanic.
Yeah, he definitely has the look of a man who would come to a small beach town and try and make it a tourist attraction.
Absolutely. So I really only did those 3. I mean, I could have done like a who would her dad have been, but we didn't never get it.
He was an absent father, so so not having a fan cast makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my fan cast for this week.
Oh my god. Your fan casts continue to bring me so much joy because even when I sit through like a reading of one of these novels going, I don't know how I'm going to make it to the end of this 62-page novel. At least once I do, Kay will make my day by putting the best possible face on this character.
Well, you know what? I aim to please. Call me a good girl.
Oh my god.
So, our next book, we are going into a trope we have not done yet with our next book. It is called Her Shifter Donuts by Mia Harlan, and it is a why choose. So, we haven't really gotten into any of that yet with more than one romantic partner. So, that should be interesting.
I can't wait.
As a reminder, if you've made it this far, we appreciate you. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, tell your friends. We are also on YouTube now, so you can find our podcasts if you listen on YouTube. And if you have the means to do so and you're interested, we do have our Buy Me a Coffee page that will help us to bring you these novels.
These delightful conversations. And with that,
we are at our wits' end.
See you next time.